Leonie Leslie is our student council president. And case in point, what Jen and Scott were saying, and I said a little earlier, and I think it was in the library that Scott and I went up to Leonie, and she was sitting there working, and looked up, and there we were, over her. And we told her that the student council president usually addresses parents at this meeting. And I think I think it was, okay. And within a couple of days, I had a draft of her speech on my desk. So this speaks so well to that can-do attitude and the self-confidence that our children feel that they really can take on the world. Come on up here and tell us about your experiences, Leonie.
Good evening, Mr. Kennedy, members of the board, faculty, and parents. As president of the Student Council, it is my honor and privilege to speak to you about the life-changing years I've had as a student here at the Grosse Pointe Academy. Throughout my years at the Academy, I've become inspired to do various things. It all began when I was 3 years old. My very first day of school, I was introduced to the Grosse Pointe Academy family in Mrs. Vardy's class. I learned how to sit in a circle and pin punch continents. Throughout the next 2 years, I learned many different things, from learning an artist every day to identifying a variety of bugs. Learning the different artists inspired me to draw and paint almost every day in my early school years. This was my very first stepping stone. Drawing and painting have followed me through this year when I was voted most artistic by my fellow 8th grade classmates for mock elections. Mrs. Vardy is very creative in teaching a specific theme each year to the children. What I've learned and seen since then is that inspiration that I experienced in kindergarten can be found throughout the school. When one becomes inspired, it is usually from something or someone. What better way for a first grader to learn from an older child than to have an 8th grade buddy? Over the course of that year, I grew up to look up to and respect my buddy, Bertie Liggett, as we participated in various activities together. Throughout the year, we traveled to the apple orchard, painted pumpkins, read stories, played games, and did many other things together. As we come to an end of our time here, the number one thing an 8th grader would say was their most memorable experience at the GPA would be having their first grade buddy participate in their graduation, and vice versa. This was certainly mine looking back at that day. This was my second stepping stone. Having a buddy to look up to is one of the best ways to keep us all connected. The Academy Buddy program exists through all the grades. It's hard for me to believe that I stand here today as an 8th grader with a little first grade buddy of my own, Hannah Martin. The lower school consists of grades 1 through 3. While being in those grades, I learned the basic concepts of what was going to come in middle school from some of the most amazing teachers around. In first grade, I learned addition and subtraction with Mrs. Carter. In second grade, I learned multiplication, division, and cursive with Mrs. Collins. In third grade, I learned how to read challenging books with Mrs. Wolney. Each teacher brought our own unique twist to learning. The strong foundation that these grades provide in reading, writing, and arithmetic was what other schools are teaching in 5th and 6th grade. From book reports to field trips, my favorite project was a 3rd grade famous person project. I did my report on Albert Einstein, which left me inspired to use one of his quotes on my yearbook page this year. And I quote, "Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited to all we now know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and all there will ever be to know and understand." End quote. As I left our lower school, I couldn't wait for the new adventures and learning I would encounter in the 4-5 program. Entering the 4-5 program with Mrs. Thomas was an eye-opening experience. During my 2 years with her, the class went on many adventures together. Our first adventure took us to our state capital in Lansing, where we learned about the government of the great state of Michigan. On the grade trips, we were overpowered standing beneath the Washington Monument. We also rode in horse carriages on Mackinac Island. These and other trips opened our eyes to the world around us. This is my third stepping stone. The Grosse Pointe Academy students get complimented anywhere they travel for their manners and the outstanding behavior they exhibit. While the teachers are always looking for ways to make us absorb new knowledge, they also know how to encourage us to have fun. Dancing, singing, and acting would make anyone laugh. Mrs. Hogel, Mrs. Turan, and Mrs. Sakula offer these opportunities in their musical productions and creative movement classes. Dancing, singing, and acting open a whole new world to a GPA student. When my mom told me I would be having art classes in the big school, I couldn't wait to draw and paint again. I now have a whole room covered with art. The move from the 4-5 program to middle school sounds scary, but the foundation the teachers set for us made it very easy. While the program has been challenging, it is also very stimulating and entertaining. The curriculum includes many advanced classes, including 3 different languages: French, Spanish, and Mandarin Chinese. The foreign language department is wonderful at the academy. I have been taking French since I entered the early school. I was fortunate enough to have my mom as the French teacher at school and at home. I am now in the process of becoming trilingual. Thank you, Mom. It shows how much I have learned during all those years when I was testing for the classes to go into my freshman year at the Grosse Pointe South High School. Madame Elhasni, my French teacher, recommended French 2 or 3 for the students in my French class this year. In 6th grade, we traveled back in time to study the medieval age by dressing up like people from the medieval times and having a feast. This was a lot of fun. On the other hand, dissecting bullfrogs and perch opened our eyes and pushed a lot of kids out of their comfort zone. This was my 4th stepping stone. In 7th grade, the comfort zone gets pushed even further, and friendships are strengthened and even more highly valued. We travel to Camp Store, where we cooperate and help literally support our friends on the high ropes course. So far, my last year at the academy has been challenging, sad, and a lot of fun. From traveling to Stratford to holding mock elections with my classmates, I can't wait for the other things that await the 8th grade class. When I was a lower school kid, I loved to watch the musical performances that Mrs. Christner put on with her 8th grade class. It was sad when I found out she was retiring before we would be entering the 8th grade. I didn't know what would happen to the magnificent play she puts on. In her place, a new music teacher was hired, Mrs. Hogel. From the 5 months I've gotten to know Mrs. Hogel, I have learned so much already. I can't wait for the 8th grade play of Fiddler on the Roof. We are working as hard as any 8th grade class before us to put on the best 8th grade musical yet. This is my 5th stepping stone. As I think about it, there are so many absolutely amazing opportunities here at the Grosse Pointe Academy. I can't possibly address them all tonight. They wouldn't all fit in this speech. The list goes on, from an extensive offering of athletics to after-school activities like chess club, forensics, Catholic formation, and cooking classes. We not only participate in after-school activities, but we also make a strong commitment to service in our community. This array of opportunities has added to who we are as students and, more importantly, as young adults. The people at the Academy are more than friends. We are a family. And as one big family, we see and get to appreciate all the things that are offered to us. One of the major things that I appreciate about the Grosse Pointe Academy is that I have the freedom to exercise my faith here. I can share my Christian beliefs with anyone. This is seen throughout the Academy, from going to chapel every Monday to Christian life classes. The Academy has taught me how to appreciate everything it has to offer. I have been blessed to be in this environment. My last stepping stone will be the day I graduate from the Grosse Pointe Academy. From the beginning of my speech, I have been talking about stepping stones. What do stepping stones have to do with the Grosse Pointe Academy? Well, one day I was reading the speech Steve Jobs delivered in 2005 at Stanford University and saw how he talked about connecting the dots. Little things build up to one big thing. If you haven't already, I would recommend reading his speech. He has inspired me to succeed in anything I want to do in the future. For example, right now, I'm in the middle of writing a book. Each one of my stepping stones stands for something that has inspired me or made me the person I hope to be in the future. With that stepping stone, when I began to draw, to my last one on graduation day, when I give the graduation speech, I will have connected all my stepping stones. These stepping stones guide me on my path to the future. In closing, I hope I have given you an idea of what the Grosse Pointe Academy means to me as a person and as a student. While I am only an 8th grader, I feel I can still say with confidence that I really do believe the Grosse Pointe Academy Advantage will indeed last a lifetime. Thank you.